Hello again, everybody. If it's your first time with us today, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Today we're going to be continuing our series on tactics, and what we're looking at today is going to be discovered attacks. So attacks that maybe you don't see at first, but they can sure sneak up on you or your opponent, and you can use them to get to victory. So, what is a discovered attack? Let's go ahead and dive right in. Well, in this first position here, we've got our white pieces. We have this lovely bishop that's hiding over here on g2, but it's not doing a whole lot at the moment. And of course, it has the knight in front of it, so it can't really do a whole lot. A discovered attack is going to occur when we move one piece so that the piece behind it can unleash an attack further along down the board. So it's going to have to be either a bishop, a rook, or a queen that will ultimately be giving that discovered attack, because of course nothing can block the knight. So that bishop, rook, or queen will have a piece move away from in front of it to unleash a more powerful attack. So in this position, how can white deliver a discovered attack to win some material? Well, the answer here is white is going to go ahead and play knight to e5. So what's happening is that now this knight and the bishop are both attacking the knight on f6. And if black takes our knight here, goes ahead and plays knight takes e5, then the discovered attack of the bishop is unleashed all the way. Rook is captured on a8, bishop takes a8, and now white has won the exchange. He's up a rook for a knight. So let's look at our second position and see another example of a discovered attack. In this next position, we're playing with the black pieces, and we have a particular type of discovered attack in this position, and that's going to be discovered check. So discovered check is the same principle as the discovered attack. The only difference is that now the piece that we are discovering, that is coming into the game, is going to be giving check to the opponent's king. So how can we give discovered check here with black in order to win some material? If you need a minute, make sure to pause the video, take a look. And the move we're going to play here with black, we're going to go ahead and go bishop g4. Now this is check not because of the bishop, but because our rook on e8 has been discovered onto the king, and our bishop now attacks white's queen. If white moves his king, we can simply take the queen. And if white brings his queen over to block, maybe a move like queen to e3, then we can just take that queen with our rook, and we will have won queen for rook and be able to have a nice game thereafter. So that's our discovered attack and discovered check. Let's take a look at another position here next. And now we have another discovery set up. We're going to have the white pieces in this one. We're going to look at yet again another unique type of discovered attack. In this position, we can once again see white has a bishop tucked away in the corner over here, and the only thing between the bishop and the king that's preventing a check is our knight on e5, so it looks like there are some ideas we have a discovered check we can give. However, in this position, there's an even stronger idea. Go ahead and see if you can find the move for white. It's actually going to be checkmate in 2. So if you don't see it yet, be sure to pause the video, take a moment, and see if you can find that checkmate in 2 moves. Alright, if you're back with us now, let's go ahead take a look. We're going to move our knight here, of course, because that's how we're going to deliver that discovered attack. And the big move here is knight to c6. And this is actually what we call a double check. So not only is it a discovered check with the bishop, but because the knight is also giving check, this is what we call a double check. So double check occurs when we have 2 pieces checking the king at the same time. Now, if the enemy king or your own king finds itself in a double check situation, there's only one way out. And unfortunately for black, that's going to be the move the king. Black can't play a move like rook takes knight because the bishop is still attacking the king. He can't block the attack of the bishop because then the knight is still attacking the king. So the only way out of a double check is going to be to move the king. You can't use another piece to block or capture. So only move for black is going to be king to a8. And how do we finish it off here for white? What's the final blow? Queen takes a7, checkmate, and happy days, we've won ourselves a nice game with white. So we've looked now at a discovered attack, we've looked now at a discovered check, and also a double check. Let's look at one more position, see if we can tie all of our ideas together here, and find a nice looking win. We're actually going to be with the black pieces here. Now, in this position, there's not any immediate discovered attack, but we're going to make a move that's going to set it up. And this not only has to do with attack, but a little bit with defense as well here. Make sure you take a minute, pause the video, and really think about this. Try to see what's going on in the position and how we can use that idea of discovery to break through for black. Alright, hopefully you're ready to get going here, and let's go ahead and look at everything that's going on in this position. Well, for one, we've got two attackers on the f2 square. Our knight and our rook are both piling on down there. It'd be lovely if we could make a capture there, but there are some problems with it right now. If we capture with the knight or the rook, well, white has some tactics he can deal back to us. First of all, if we capture with the rook, our b8 rook is hanging, and he can just take that with the queen. So maybe our first thought is, let's play knight f2 takes f2. It's a check, that looks good. The problem here is that white can use the same idea, the same tactic. Here white can play rook takes knight, and now we can't recapture him, because if rook takes rook, queen takes that rook with check, and now we're going to be in trouble. So taking on f2 isn't going to work, but it is nice to have this knight and rook here. We'd like to find some way to take advantage of this pressure. Our knight also blocks the g1 square, which means that the king is pretty low on squares right now. The only place he can come is g2. So, how can we take advantage of that? Well, let's go ahead and look at the move queen to e4 check. Queen e4 check, we're attacking the king. This looks like a good start. And there's only one way for white to defend. The king has no squares to run to, so he has to play the move pawn to f3. Now what do? Our queen here is under attack. Of course, this pawn has moved forward, so there's a little bit more space for white's rook, it looks like. What's the critical move here for black? See if you can find it. If you didn't see it before, this is where there's a really big move that wins for black. See if you can find it in the position, thinking about all the ideas we've already gone over here today. So for black, the winning move here is going to be the daring rook takes f3. And this looks a little odd at first, right? We've captured this pawn with our rook, and we're once again leaving our rook hanging on b8. So queen takes b8 with check. And now what's the big defensive idea? How does black win the day? It's both aggression and defense all together. Rook back to f8, attacks the queen, but more importantly, discovered check with our queen. So we're defending against our checkmate. White doesn't have time to capture our rook because his king's under attack. Only move he has to play, rook to f3. And what's checkmate in one here? Queen takes f3, and that's all she wrote. Happy days for black. A surprising move there. We're combining that idea of defense with the discovered check, that discovered attack. So look for ways that you can always surprise your opponent, keep them on the ropes. Remember, when we give check, he has to respond. So when we drop that rook back, even though our rook was hanging on b8, suddenly we're able to get into the game. Always look for ways to take advantage of these time-gaining moves. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. And I look forward to seeing you use these discovered attacks, discovered checks, double checks in action, and winning some beautiful chess games. Best of luck.